The hotel clerk's words hit like a verdict. I'm sorry, Ms. Carter. There's only one room left in the entire city, and it's already booked under Mr. Whitmore's name. Naomi's breath caught. One room, one bed, with her CEO, the man whose quiet intensity had unraveled her carefully built walls for 2 years, the man she could never have. Outside, San Francisco glittered with impossible choices. Inside, her phone buzzed, her son's goodnight text, a reminder of everything at stake. Ethan appeared beside her, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. We can make this work, he said quietly. But some lines, once crossed, can never be redrawn. If you're watching from Tokyo, Mumbai, Lagos, or anywhere in between, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're already hooked, hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to see where this night takes them. The departure board at JFK blinked red like a warning Naomi should have heeded hours ago. Delayed. 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 She stood beneath the flickering letters, laptop bag cutting into her shoulder, phone pressed to her ear as her son's voice crackled through the speaker. Mom, when are you coming home? Soon, baby, I promise. The lie tasted bitter. She had no idea when she'd make it home. Is Grandma making you do your homework? Yeah, but she let me have ice cream first. Naomi smiled despite the chaos swirling around her. Good. You be good for her, okay? I'll call you before bed. Love you, Mom. Love you more. She ended the call and pressed her forehead against the cool glass overlooking the tarmac. At 28, Naomi Carter had built her life on precision and control. Every decision calculated, every risk measured. Being a single mother to a 7-year-old didn't leave room for mistakes. And yet here she was, stranded in an airport terminal with a $12 million pitch scheduled for 9 a.m. in San Francisco. A pitch that could change everything. Ms. Carter. The voice was low, measured, unmistakable. Naomi turned to find Ethan Whitmore standing 3 feet away, suit jacket draped over one arm, tie loosened just enough to reveal the hollow of his throat. His dark hair was slightly disheveled from running his hand through it, something he did when he was thinking too hard. She'd noticed that about him. She'd noticed far too much. Mr. Whitmore. She kept her voice professional, neutral. I didn't realize you were on this flight. Last-minute decision. His gray eyes held hers for a beat too long. I wanted to be there for the pitch. This account matters. You matter, his expression seemed to say, though his words remained careful, appropriate. Ethan Whitmore, 34, CEO of Caldwell and Rowe Consulting, had inherited his father's company at 29 after a sudden heart attack took Richard Whitmore mid-sentence during a board meeting. 5 years later, Ethan had tripled revenue, expanded into 6 countries, and earned a reputation as brilliant but distant, a man married to his work because loss had taught him that permanence was a lie. Naomi had worked under him for 2 years. 2 years of stolen glances across conference tables. 2 years of late-night emails that read like conversations they'd never dare have in daylight. 2 years of pretending she didn't feel her pulse quicken every time he said her name. Well, she said, adjusting her bag, hopefully we actually make it there. Looks doubtful. Ethan glanced at the board. I just spoke with the gate agent. Mechanical issues. They're saying another 3 hours minimum. 3 hours? Naomi's stomach dropped. That puts us in San Francisco after midnight. The presentation's at 9. I know. His jaw tightened. I've already had my assistant reach out to the client. They're not budging on the time. Naomi's mind raced through contingencies, backup plans, miracle scenarios. This pitch was for Horizon Tech, a Silicon Valley giant looking to overhaul their entire marketing strategy. $12 million over 3 years. The kind of account that could secure her son's future, pay off her mother's medical bills, prove she belonged in rooms where people still questioned whether a single mother could handle the pressure. We'll make it work, she said, more to herself than to him. We always do. Ethan's voice softened. You've prepared an incredible presentation, Naomi. 3 hours won't change that. The sound of her first name in his mouth did something dangerous to her composure. At work, it was always Ms. Carter in front of others. Naomi only in his office with the door closed, during strategy sessions that stretched past midnight when they were the last ones in the building. Those moments felt like a secret language they'd invented without permission. "Thank you," she managed. "I should probably find somewhere to sit, maybe run through the deck one more time. Have you eaten?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "Dinner. Have you eaten?" Ethan gestured toward the terminal. "There's a decent restaurant near Gate 27. We could go over final talking points. Make sure we're aligned." It was a reasonable suggestion, practical, exactly the kind of thing two colleagues would do before a major pitch. So why did it feel like standing at the edge of something she couldn't name? "Sure," Naomi heard herself say. "That makes sense." The restaurant was surprisingly quiet, tucked away from the main terminal chaos. They sat across from each other in a booth designed for intimacy, though Naomi kept her eyes on the menu like it contained classified information. "The salmon's good here," Ethan offered, "if you're interested." "You've been here before?" "Few times. Business trips blur together after a while." Naomi ordered the salmon. Ethan ordered a steak, rare. They requested water, not wine. This was business, after all. When the waiter left, silence settled between them like a third presence. "How's Marcus doing?" Ethan asked, breaking it first. Naomi's expression softened instantly. "He's good, growing too fast. He lost another tooth last week and left it under his pillow with a note asking the tooth fairy for baseball cards instead of money." Ethan laughed, a real laugh, the kind she rarely heard from him. "Entrepreneur in the making. He gets that from my mother. She could negotiate anything." Naomi's smile faded slightly. "She's watching him while I'm gone. Her arthritis has been bad lately, but she won't admit it. You take care of a lot of people." "That's what mothers do." "It's what you do," Ethan corrected quietly. "At work, too. You make sure everyone on your team is supported, even when you're drowning in your own deadlines." Naomi met his eyes. "You notice that?" "I notice everything about you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither could afford to unpack. Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. This was dangerous territory. Ethan was her boss, her CEO. Getting involved with him would be professional suicide, fodder for every jealous colleague waiting for her to fail. And yet, "The team respects you," she said carefully. "You lead by example. That's rare. My father used to say leadership is just showing up when it's easier to walk away." Ethan's voice took on a distant quality. "He showed up every day for 30 years, right up until his heart gave out in the middle of a sentence about quarterly projections." "I'm sorry." Naomi had heard the story, but never from him. "That must have been terrifying," Ethan finished. "I was 29. I'd spent my whole life preparing to take over someday, just not that day. Not surrounded by board members who thought I was too young, too unproven. Not while planning a funeral." "But you did it anyway." "I didn't have a choice." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "You understand that, don't you? Not having a choice. Doing the impossible because the alternative is unthinkable." Naomi thought of the day she'd taken a pregnancy test in a gas station bathroom, 19 years old, college scholarship on the line, boyfriend already gone. Thought of calling her mother with shaking hands, hearing, "We'll figure it out," instead of the disappointment she'd feared. Thought of every late night studying while Marcus slept, every job interview where she'd had to prove she was more than a statistic. "Yes," she said softly. "I understand." Their food arrived, but neither seemed hungry anymore. They ate mechanically, the conversation drifting to safer waters, market trends, client preferences. The new analytics software IT was rolling out. But underneath the professional veneer, something had shifted. By the time they returned to the gate, the flight was boarding. They settled into their business class seats, Ethan in 3A, Naomi in 3B. The plane was half empty, most travelers having opted for tomorrow's flights. "At least we'll have room to work," Naomi said, pulling out her laptop. But exhaustion was already pulling at her edges. The adrenaline that had carried her through the delay was fading, replaced by the bone-deep tiredness of a woman who hadn't slept properly in years. "You should rest," Ethan said, closing his own laptop. "I'll wake you before we land." "I should review the—" "Naomi." His hand brushed hers on the armrest, so briefly she might have imagined it. "You know this pitch better than anyone. Rest." She wanted to argue. Instead, she nodded, reclined her seat, and closed her eyes. Sleep came faster than expected, deep and dreamless. They landed at SFO at 12:47 a.m. Pacific Time. The city sprawled beneath them, a glittering circuit board of light and life. Naomi had been to San Francisco twice before, once for a conference, once for a disastrous first date her mother had set up with a nice accountant who spent 2 hours talking about tax law. This trip was supposed to be different, professional, clean. The hotel was downtown, a boutique property the client had recommended. Naomi and Ethan had separate reservations, separate rooms, separate everything. Except the universe, it seemed, had other plans. "I apologize, Ms. Carter." The night clerk's expression was genuinely distressed. "But there's been a system error. Your reservation was accidentally canceled when we processed a group booking earlier today." Naomi's exhaustion crystallized into sharp panic. "Canceled? I confirmed this morning." "I understand, and I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we're completely sold out due to a tech conference. I've called every hotel in the city. Everything's booked solid." "Everything?" Naomi's voice climbed an octave. "I'm afraid so. There's a solution, though." The clerk glanced between her and Ethan, who had materialized at her elbow. "Mr. Whitmore's suite has 2 beds. If you're traveling together, you're welcome to share the accommodation. We'll reduce the rate, of course, and that won't be necessary," Ethan said firmly. "Ms. Carter needs her own room." "Sir, I've checked personally. There isn't a single room available in San Francisco tonight. Even the airport hotels are full." Naomi felt the walls closing in. She looked at Ethan, saw her own uncertainty reflected in his face. They were colleagues, professionals. This was absurd. And yet, what choice did they have? "How many beds in the suite?" she asked quietly. "Just one, ma'am, king-sized. But there's a comfortable sofa, and we can bring up extra linens." "We'll take it," Naomi interrupted. "It's fine. We're adults. We can make this work." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Naomi, you don't have to. It's after 1 a.m. We have a presentation in 7 hours. I'm too tired to care about optics right now." She turned to the clerk. "What room number?" 1847, top floor. I'll have a bellhop bring up your bags." The elevator ride was silent. Naomi stared at the ascending numbers, acutely aware of Ethan's presence beside her. The subtle scent of his cologne, the controlled rhythm of his breathing, the careful distance he maintained between them. The suite was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Bay Bridge, city lights painting the darkness in shades of gold and silver. The bed dominated the space, California king, white linens crisp and inviting. One bed. "I'll take the sofa," Ethan said immediately. "Don't be ridiculous. You're 6'2". Your back will be destroyed." "Then you take the bed. I'll manage." Naomi dropped her bag and faced him. "We're both exhausted. We both need to be sharp tomorrow. We're going to split the bed like rational adults with a pillow barrier down the middle like some ridiculous romantic comedy, and we're going to pretend this never happened." Ethan's eyes searched hers. "You're sure?" "I've shared worse sleeping arrangements." It was true. College dorms, her mother's pull-out couch after Marcus was born, a night in the office during a blizzard. "We can handle one night." "All right." His voice was rough. "Bathroom's yours first." Naomi grabbed her toiletry bag and retreated. The bathroom was all marble and mirrors, mocking her with its romantic ambiance. She changed into the modest pajamas she always traveled with, cotton pants and a loose t-shirt, and scrubbed her face clean. When she emerged, Ethan had already constructed a wall of pillows down the center of the bed with architectural precision. "That should work," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. "Very professional." "We're nothing if not professional." They climbed into opposite sides of the bed, maintaining their respective territories. Naomi turned off her lamp. Ethan did the same. Darkness wrapped around them, broken only by the ambient glow of the city beyond the windows. "Naomi?" "Yeah?" "Tomorrow's going to be great. You're going to be great." Her throat tightened. "Thanks, Ethan." "Get some sleep." She closed her eyes and tried to focus on her breathing, on the presentation outline memorized in her bones, on anything except the fact that Ethan Whitmore was 12 inches away, separated by nothing but pillows and propriety. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and strange. Naomi woke to warmth. Not the impersonal warmth of hotel heating, but the specific, undeniable warmth of another human body pressed against hers. Her eyes flew open. Gray morning light filtered through the windows. The pillow wall had collapsed completely, scattered across the bed like evidence of a crime, and she was in Ethan's arms. Her back was curved against his chest, his arm draped over her waist, his breath steady and even against her neck. For one suspended moment, Naomi didn't move, couldn't move. The feeling was too perfect, too devastating, like something she'd secretly wanted for 2 years suddenly made real. Then reality crashed back. She extracted herself carefully, trying not to wake him. But the moment she moved, Ethan's eyes opened. He registered their position. His arm jerked back as if burned. They both started simultaneously. I'm sorry, Ethan said, sitting up abruptly. I didn't mean to. It's fine. Naomi's voice came out steadier than she felt. We were both asleep. It doesn't mean anything. But the air between them felt charged, electric. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, that gesture again, and she saw something flicker across his face. Want, regret, fear. We should get ready, he said, not looking at her. Big day. Right, big day. They moved around each other with exaggerated care, taking turns in the bathroom, packing bags, checking phones, anything to avoid discussing what had just happened, what almost felt like it could happen if they let it. Naomi's phone buzzed. Marcus sending a selfie with gap-toothed grin. Good luck, Mom. You're going to kill it. The image steadied her. This was why she was here. Not for whatever dangerous thing hummed between her and Ethan, but for her son, for the future she was building, brick by careful brick. Ready? Ethan asked from the door. Naomi grabbed her laptop bag and met his eyes. Ready. The Horizon Tech offices occupied 3 floors of a gleaming tower in the financial district. The conference room was all glass and steel, designed to intimidate. 12 executives sat around a table that probably cost more than Naomi's car. But when she stepped to the front of the room, laptop connected to the presentation screen, something clicked into place. This was her territory, her expertise. Good morning, she began, her voice clear and confident. Thank you for this opportunity. What we're going to show you today isn't just a marketing strategy. It's a fundamental reimagining of how Horizon Tech connects with the innovators, dreamers, and builders who are your true customer base. For the next 90 minutes, Naomi commanded the room. She walked them through market analysis, consumer psychology, campaign mock-ups, projected ROI. Ethan interjected at perfect moments, reinforcing points, answering technical questions about implementation, demonstrating their team's capabilities. They moved together like dancers who'd rehearsed for years. Every transition seamless, every answer precise. When Naomi clicked to the final slide, she paused. You're not hiring a consulting firm, she said, looking each executive in the eye. You're choosing a partner who understands that your success is our success, who will fight for your brand with the same intensity you fight for innovation. We're not the biggest firm you're considering, but we're the one that will treat your $12 million investment like it's our own future on the line. Because it is. Silence filled the room. Then Sarah Chen, Horizon's CMO, started clapping. The rest of the table joined her. That, Sarah said standing, was exactly what we needed to hear. Can you give us 30 minutes to confer? Of course, Ethan replied smoothly. Outside in the hallway, Naomi let out a breath she'd been holding for an hour and a half. Her hands were shaking with adrenaline. That was incredible, Ethan said quietly. You were incredible. We were incredible. Naomi met his eyes. That part about partnership, that was you, your vision, executed through your brilliance. They stood there too close in the empty hallway, the aftermath of performance still singing through their veins. Naomi saw Ethan's hand twitch toward hers, then stop. Whatever happens in there, he said, voice low, I want you to know, working with you is the best decision I never had to make. You were already there when I took over, already essential. I don't know how I would have survived those first months without your insights. Ethan, Ms. Carter, Mr. Whitmore? A junior assistant appeared. They're ready for you. The moment dissolved. They returned to the conference room to find smiles all around. We have a decision, Sarah announced. Actually, it was unanimous. Caldwell and Rowe Consulting, welcome to the Horizon Tech family. Let's build something extraordinary together. Handshakes, Congratulations. Contract terms to be finalized by legal. A timeline stretching 3 years into the future. $12 million. Naomi had done it. That evening, Ethan insisted on celebrating. They found a restaurant in North Beach, intimate and warm, red wine and fresh pasta. The kind of place where couples celebrated anniversaries. To partnership, Ethan said, raising his glass. To partnership, Naomi echoed, though the word felt inadequate for whatever they'd built over 2 years of late nights and shared victories. The wine loosened something in both of them. Conversation drifted from business to personal. Marcus's upcoming school play, Ethan's attempt to learn piano during lockdown, Naomi's secret love of terrible reality television, Ethan's admission that he read poetry when he couldn't sleep. Poetry? Naomi laughed. I can't picture it. Yeah, it's mostly, sometimes Neruda. Ethan's ears colored slightly. My father thought it was impractical. Said business leaders don't waste time on verses. Your father was wrong. He was wrong about a lot of things. Ethan's expression grew serious. He believed you had to choose success or happiness, that you couldn't have both without compromising one. Do you believe that? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. I used to. Now I'm not sure what I believe. The weight of unspoken things pressed against Naomi's chest. She thought of waking up in his arms, thought of 2 years of almost and not quites, thought of her son waiting at home, of her career finally gaining traction, of all the reasons this couldn't happen. Ethan, she started, then stopped. What could she possibly say? I know, he replied softly. Me too. It wasn't a confession, it wasn't a promise, but it was acknowledgement that whatever existed between them was real, dangerous, and impossible. They finished dinner in careful conversation, paying the bill and walking back to the hotel through streets painted in fog and streetlight. At the elevator, Ethan hit the button for her floor. You're not coming up? Naomi asked, surprised. I think it's better if I don't. His voice was strained. Last night was... We can't risk a repeat. I'm going to grab a drink at the bar, give you space to settle in. Naomi nodded, understanding and hating it simultaneously. Okay, well, thank you for everything today. The pleasure was mine, Ms. Carter. The formality was a shield they both desperately needed. Naomi rode the elevator alone, entered her room, her own room this time, and collapsed on the bed. Her phone showed 3 messages from her mother and 1 from Marcus. Did you win, Mom? We won, she typed back. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Love you to the moon. Love you to the stars. She smiled, set her phone aside, and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere 18 floors below, Ethan Whitmore was sitting at a hotel bar, probably nursing whiskey and pretending he felt nothing. She knew because she was doing the same thing, just without the whiskey. The flight home tomorrow would be awkward. The office on Monday would be harder. And somehow, Naomi would have to figure out how to work alongside the man she'd woken up wrapped around without setting her entire carefully constructed life on fire. Outside, San Francisco glittered with possibility and danger. Inside, Naomi closed her eyes and tried to forget the feeling of being held. But some memories, she was learning, refused to fade. The morning after their return to New York, Naomi woke to her son jumping on her bed with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been fed pure sugar for breakfast. Mom, tell me about California, she groaned, pulling a pillow over her face. Marcus, it's 6:30 on a Saturday. Grandma said you won a huge deal. She said we're going to be rich. Naomi sat up, laughing despite her exhaustion. We're not going to be rich, but yes, we won the contract. It's a very good thing for the company. Marcus's gap-toothed grin could have powered the entire apartment. Does that mean I can get the new baseball glove? It means you can earn the new baseball glove by keeping your grades up and helping Grandma around the house. Deal! He threw his arms around her neck, and Naomi breathed in the scent of children's shampoo and maple syrup. This was what mattered. Not complicated feelings for her boss. Not the memory of waking up in arms that weren't hers to claim. Her mother appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand. Eleanor Carter was 62, but moved like someone 20 years younger, except on the days when her arthritis flared and she couldn't hide the pain in her joints. Let your mother breathe, Marcus. Go finish your pancakes. Marcus bounded off with the same energy he'd arrived with. Eleanor settled on the edge of the bed, studying her daughter with eyes that had always seen too much. You look tired, she said simply. It was a long trip. Was it successful? Very. 12 million over 3 years. My team's going to be busy. And your boss? Mr. Whitmore? How was working with him? Naomi kept her expression neutral. Professional. He's a good leader. We make a solid team. Eleanor sipped her coffee, saying nothing. The silence stretched until Naomi couldn't bear it. What? I didn't say anything. You're thinking something. I'm thinking you have that look you get when you're trying very hard not to think about something. Eleanor's voice was gentle. I raised you, baby. I know when you're fighting yourself. Naomi pulled her knees to her chest. It doesn't matter what I feel. Some things just aren't possible. Because he's your boss? Because I have a son to raise and a career I've built from nothing. Because getting involved with Ethan Whitmore would make me every terrible stereotype people already assume about single mothers trying to get ahead. Because I can't afford to be reckless. Reckless, Eleanor repeated. Is that what they're calling it when two people care about each other? Mom, you're 28 years old. You've spent 9 years being the most responsible person I've ever known. Maybe it's okay to want something for yourself. I want stability for Marcus. I want security. You want to be happy, Eleanor interrupted. And there's nothing wrong with that. Naomi pressed her face against her knees. It's complicated. Love usually is. I didn't say I was in love with him. Eleanor smiled into her coffee. You didn't have to. Monday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Naomi dressed with extra care. Navy suit, hair pulled into a sleek bun, armor firmly in place. The office felt different somehow, as though San Francisco had shifted the molecular structure of familiar spaces. She made it to her desk without seeing Ethan, which felt like both a relief and a disappointment. Her team greeted her with enthusiastic congratulations, bombarding her with questions about the pitch, the client, the city. I heard you and Whitmore absolutely crushed it, said James, one of her senior strategists. Sarah Chen apparently told someone at brunch that it was the best presentation she'd seen in 5 years. It was a team effort, Naomi deflected. We had excellent materials to work with. Don't be modest. You're brilliant and you know it, James grinned. Rumor is Whitmore's planning to announce the win at the All Hands this afternoon. Big celebration, probably bonuses if we're lucky. Naomi's stomach tightened. An all-hands meeting meant seeing Ethan in front of the entire company, meant pretending everything was normal while standing 15 feet away from the man whose arms she'd woken up in 4 days ago. She threw herself into work, responding to emails, reviewing campaign drafts, anything to keep her mind occupied. At 11:30, her desk phone rang. Ms. Carter, Ethan's voice was carefully professional. Do you have a moment? I'd like to discuss the Horizon rollout timeline. Of course. I'll come to your office. Actually, I thought we could grab coffee. The conference room's being used and I could use some air. Coffee. Outside the office. Alone. Sure, Naomi heard herself say. I'll meet you in the lobby in 5. She grabbed her coat and tried to ignore the knowing look on James's face as she passed his desk. Ethan was waiting by the elevators, looking unfairly good in charcoal gray. They rode down in silence, walked 2 blocks to a small cafe that served overpriced lattes to the financial district lunch crowd. The usual? Ethan asked. The fact that he knew her usual, oat milk cappuccino, extra foam, sent an uncomfortable flutter through her chest. They found a table in the back corner. Ethan set down a folder thick with documents. So, he began, I've been thinking about team structure for the Horizon account. Team structure? You built the pitch. You understand their needs better than anyone. I want you to lead the entire implementation. Naomi blinked. Lead it? Ethan, that's a $12 million account. That's senior director level responsibility. Which is why I'm promoting you to senior director, effective immediately. 20% raise, full team autonomy, direct reporting to me on this account only. The words didn't compute. Naomi set down her coffee carefully. You're promoting me. You've earned it 10 times over. This just makes it official. Ethan slid the folder across the table. Offer letter, updated contract, benefits package. HR will want to meet with you this week to finalize everything. Naomi opened the folder with shaking hands. The numbers on the first page made her breath catch. With this salary, she could move to a bigger apartment, get Marcus into a better school district, help her mother with her medical expenses without lying awake at night doing mental arithmetic. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Ethan's voice was soft. Say you'll accept what you've worked for. She looked up and found him watching her with an expression that made her heart stumble. This wasn't just about business. This was about respect, recognition, belief in her abilities. This was about him wanting her to succeed, even if it meant maintaining the professional distance, killing them both. Yes, Naomi said. I accept. Good. Ethan's smile was genuine, if tinged with something bittersweet. You're going to be extraordinary in this role. You already are. They talked logistics for another 20 minutes, team assignments, client touchpoints, budget allocations. The conversation stayed carefully professional, two colleagues discussing business over coffee. But when their hands accidentally brushed reaching for the same document, electricity sparked between them. Ethan pulled back as if burned. Sorry, he muttered. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. They walked back to the office, maintaining careful distance, like two magnets forced into the same polarity. In the elevator, surrounded by other employees, they stood on opposite sides and stared at the ascending numbers. The all-hands meeting at 3 o'clock filled the largest conference room. Ethan stood at the front, commanding attention with the ease of someone born to lead. I wanted to share some excellent news, he began. Last week, Caldwell & Rowe secured the Horizon Tech account, a $12 million three-year contract that represents our largest single client win this year. Applause rippled through the room. Naomi felt 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. This victory belongs to our entire marketing division, but I want to specifically recognize Naomi Carter, who will be stepping into a new role as Senior Director of Strategic Accounts to lead this implementation. More applause, louder this time. Naomi forced a smile, nodding graciously while her pulse hammered. After the meeting, colleagues swarmed her with congratulations. She shook hands, accepted praise, promised celebratory drinks she had no intention of attending. Through it all, she felt Ethan's gaze from across the room, steady and unwavering. When the crowd finally dispersed, she made it back to her desk to find a small box wrapped in simple brown paper. No card. She knew who it was from. Inside was a first edition copy of Pablo Neruda's 20 love poems and a song of despair. A small note in Ethan's precise handwriting read, "For late nights when sleep won't come, congratulations on everything you've earned." Naomi pressed the book to her chest and tried not to cry. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Naomi assembled her team, held kickoff meetings, established workflows for the Horizon account. She moved into a new office, still smaller than Ethan's, but with a door that closed and a window that overlooked the city. Marcus was thrilled about the bigger apartment they'd found in a better neighborhood. Eleanor cried when Naomi insisted on paying for her to see a specialist about her arthritis. "You don't have to do this," her mother protested. "Yes, I do. You've given me everything. Let me give you something back." Professionally, Naomi was thriving. The Horizon team respected her leadership. Early deliverables exceeded client expectations. Sarah Chen sent a personal email praising the fresh energy and vision Caldwell & Rowe was bringing to the partnership. But personally, things were becoming unbearable. Every meeting with Ethan was an exercise in restraint. Every email exchange felt loaded with subtext. Every accidental encounter in the hallway sent her pulse racing, and she knew he felt it too. Saw it in the way his jaw tightened when she entered his office. Heard it in the careful distance he maintained in his voice. Felt it in the space he left between them, always professional, always appropriate, always aching with what couldn't be said. 3 weeks after San Francisco, Naomi stayed late finishing a presentation. The office had emptied hours ago. She was deep in formatting slides when someone knocked on her doorframe. Ethan stood there, tie loosened, jacket abandoned somewhere, looking as exhausted as she felt. "You're still here," he said. "So are you. Quarterly reports. The board's getting anxious about our European expansion. Want to talk through it? Sometimes a fresh perspective helps." It was a terrible idea. They both knew it. Ethan hesitated, then stepped inside and closed the door. They worked side by side for an hour, Naomi offering insights on market positioning while Ethan refined financial projections. It felt like old times, before San Francisco, before complications, when they were just two people who worked well together. Except it had never really been that simple, had it? Thank you, Ethan said finally, saving the updated document. You just saved me 3 hours of frustration. That's what senior directors are for. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Naomi, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret San Francisco? The question hung between them, dangerous and necessary. Naomi set down her pen and met his gaze. Which part? All of it. The shared room, the morning, the fact that we crossed a line we can't uncross. We didn't cross anything, Naomi said carefully. We shared a hotel room because we had no choice. We fell asleep. That's all that happened. Is it? It has to be. Ethan stood abruptly, pacing to the window. The city stretched below them, millions of lives intersecting and diverging in patterns too complex to predict. I can't stop thinking about it, he admitted, voice low. About waking up with you in my arms. About how right it felt. About how much I wanted to… He stopped himself. I'm your boss. This is completely inappropriate. I should leave. Ethan, wait. He turned, and the naked longing in his expression nearly undid her. I think about it too, Naomi confessed. Every day. Every time I see you. Every time we're in a meeting and you say something brilliant, and I want to tell you how extraordinary you are, but I can't because it would cross every professional boundary we have. So what do? Nothing. We do nothing. Because I have a son who depends on me and a career I've fought for. And if people think I slept my way into this promotion, no one would think that. You earned this position. You know that. I know that. But there are 50 people in this office who would love an excuse to diminish what I've accomplished, who already whisper about the single mom who got lucky. Naomi's voice cracked. I can't give them ammunition. Ethan crossed the space between them in 3 strides. For one suspended moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture achingly tender. You're right, he said quietly. About all of it. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. You didn't. We're both here. Then we both need to step back before we do something we can't undo. Naomi nodded, not trusting her voice. Ethan's hand lingered near her face for another heartbeat, then dropped. I should go, he said. Yeah. He made it to the door before turning back. For what it's worth, Naomi, you're the best decision I never had to make. Working with you, watching you lead, seeing you become everything you were meant to be, it's an honor, even if it's all we ever have. Then he was gone, and Naomi was alone in her office, pressing her palms against her eyes and trying to remember all the reasons she was doing the right thing. The next morning, she arrived to find Derek Chen leaning against her doorframe. Derek was a marketing manager who'd been with the company for 6 years, longer than Naomi, though she'd surpassed him in both skill and position. He'd never quite forgiven her for it. Congratulations on the promotion, he said, voice dripping with false sincerity. Thank you, Derek. Must be nice, having such a close working relationship with the CEO. Naomi's blood went cold. Excuse me? I'm just saying, not everyone gets personal coffee meetings and after-hours office visits. Some of us have to earn our positions the old-fashioned way. She stood slowly, fury replacing shock. If you have something to say, Derek, say it plainly. I'm not saying anything, just making an observation. He smiled, ugly and knowing. San Francisco must have been quite the business trip. Get out of my office. Touchy, I'm just… Now. Derek held up his hands in mock surrender and sauntered away. Naomi closed her door and leaned against it, heart pounding. How did he know about San Francisco? About the coffee meetings? Someone had been watching them, talking about them. And now Derek was weaponizing it. She wanted to march into Ethan's office and tell him everything, but that would only make things worse. Instead, she took a deep breath, fixed her expression, and returned to work. If Derek wanted to play games, she'd show him exactly what she'd earned. Over the next week, whispers started circulating. Naomi felt them like a physical presence, colleagues falling silent when she approached, knowing glances exchanged in meetings, the subtle shift in how people interacted with her. James confronted her directly on Friday afternoon. People are talking, he said, closing her office door. Let them talk. Naomi, this is serious. Derek's been implying that you and Whitmore, that the promotion was based on merit and performance. Naomi interrupted sharply. Which anyone who's worked with me knows. I know that. But perception matters. And Derek's poison is spreading. Then people need to decide whether they believe office gossip or the work I've produced for 2 years. James studied her carefully. Is there any truth to it? You and Whitmore? We shared a hotel room in San Francisco because of a booking error. We slept in the same bed with a pillow wall between us. We woke up. We did our jobs. That's the entire story. It was the truth, just not all of it. James seemed satisfied. Okay, I believe you, but you need to be careful. Derek's going to HR. With what? Office gossip? With documentation, timestamps of when you both left the office, expense reports from San Francisco. He's building a case for impropriety. Naomi felt the walls closing in. This is insane. This is corporate politics. And you're a threat to insecure men who think promotions should be based on seniority rather than talent. After James left, Naomi sat in stunned silence. Everything she'd worked for, her reputation, her promotion, her team's respect, was being undermined by implication and innuendo. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. My office. Now, please. She found him pacing behind his desk, expression grim. HR wants to meet with both of us Monday morning, he said without preamble. There's been a complaint filed regarding our professional conduct. Derek, apparently, he's alleging favoritism and inappropriate relationship dynamics. Ethan's voice was tight with controlled fury. This is my fault. I should have been more careful about what? Doing your job? Promoting someone who deserved it? About wanting you. The words escaped before he could stop them. About letting my personal feelings compromise your professional standing. Naomi closed the door. Your feelings didn't compromise anything. My work speaks for itself. Does it? Because from where I'm standing, I've put you in an impossible position. If we deny everything, we look defensive. If we admit to attraction, even unexpressed attraction, you become the woman who slept her way to a promotion. I didn't sleep with you. No, but I wanted you to. Ethan's voice dropped to something raw and honest. Every day for 2 years, every late night working together. Every time you walked into a meeting and made everyone else in the room look amateur by comparison. I wanted you, Naomi, and maybe that compromised my judgment. It didn't. You promoted me because I earned it. I promoted you because you're brilliant, but I also promoted you because I wanted you close, wanted to keep working with you, wanted... He stopped himself. That's favoritism, whether I acted on it or not. Naomi felt tears burning behind her eyes. So what are you saying? I'm saying HR is going to offer you a choice. Stay in your current role and maintain reporting distance from me, or take an equivalent position in our Seattle office. Full autonomy, same salary, same title, just 3,000 miles away. The floor dropped out from under her. Seattle. It's a good office, growing market. You'd run the entire West Coast division, with no direct reporting to you, with complete independence. Naomi understood what he wasn't saying. This was the solution that protected them both. Her reputation, his leadership, the careful distance they'd been trying to maintain. When do I have to decide? Monday, after the HR meeting. She nodded numbly. Okay. Naomi, don't. She held up a hand. Don't tell me this is for the best or that I'll thrive in Seattle or any of the other true things that will make this hurt less. Just don't. She left before he could respond, before the tears could fall, before she said something she couldn't take back. That weekend, Naomi barely left her apartment. Marcus knew something was wrong, but didn't push. Eleanor watched her daughter with quiet concern, bringing tea and silent companionship. Sunday night, Marcus climbed into bed beside her. Mom? Are we moving? What? No, baby. Why would you think that? You've been sad, and last time you were this sad, we moved apartments. Naomi pulled him close. I'm not sad, just thinking about work stuff. Is it that mean Derek guy? The one who always talks too loud? She laughed despite everything. How do you know about Derek? You told Grandma about him. I heard you on the phone. Marcus looked up at her with serious eyes. You always tell me to stand up to bullies. Are you going to stand up to Derek? Out of the mouths of children came clarity she'd been avoiding. Naomi kissed the top of his head. Yeah, baby. I'm going to stand up to Derek. Monday morning, she dressed in her best suit, the one she'd worn to the Horizon pitch, armor firmly in place. She arrived at HR 30 minutes early. Ethan was already there, looking like he'd slept as poorly as she had. They sat in separate chairs, maintaining professional distance, while Miranda Torres from HR reviewed the complaint. Mr. Chen has raised concerns about preferential treatment and potential conflicts of interest, Miranda said, her tone neutral. Specifically regarding Ms. Carter's promotion and the professional relationship between you both. My promotion was based on merit, Naomi said firmly. I can provide documentation of every project I've led, every client win I've contributed to, every metric that justified the title and compensation increase. I don't doubt your qualifications, Ms. Carter, but perception of impropriety can be as damaging as actual impropriety. Miranda looked between them. Were you both aware of the company's fraternization policy? We haven't fraternized, Ethan said, but you did share a hotel room in San Francisco. Due to a booking error in sold-out city, we maintained appropriate boundaries. Can you define appropriate boundaries for me? Naomi felt heat rising in her cheeks. We slept in the same bed with a pillow barrier. We were both fully clothed. Nothing inappropriate occurred. And your relationship outside of that incident? Entirely professional, Ethan answered. Miranda made a note. Mr. Whitmore, do you have personal feelings for Mrs. Carter? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Naomi held her breath. That's not relevant to her professional qualifications, Ethan said carefully. It's relevant to whether those qualifications were the sole factor in her promotion. Ethan's jaw tightened. Naomi Carter is the most talented strategist I've worked with in 15 years. Her promotion was overdue, if anything. My personal feelings, whatever they may be, didn't factor into a decision that was purely merit-based. But you acknowledge having personal feelings. I acknowledge that Ms. Carter is an exceptional colleague whom I respect enormously. If that constitutes personal feelings, then yes. Miranda turned to Naomi. And you, Ms. Carter? Do you have personal feelings for Mr. Whitmore? Every instinct screamed at her to lie, to protect herself, to say the safe thing. Instead, she met Miranda's gaze steadily. I have enormous respect for Ethan as a leader and colleague. Whether that respect includes personal regard is separate from the professional relationship we've maintained. That's not a denial. It's an acknowledgement that human beings are complex and that maintaining professional boundaries despite personal regard is exactly what mature adults do. Miranda nodded slowly. Here's what I'm prepared to recommend to the board. Ms. Carter's promotion stands. Her qualifications are beyond question. However, to avoid any appearance of impropriety, we're offering an equivalent position running our Seattle division. Same title, same compensation, full operational autonomy. You'd report to the regional director rather than directly to Mr. Whitmore. There it was. The escape hatch. The solution that protected everyone. Naomi thought of Marcus, of the life they'd built in New York, of her mother, whose doctors were here, of the team she'd assembled, the clients who trusted her, of Ethan, sitting 3 feet away, carefully not looking at her. I need time to consider, she said. You have until Friday. After that, we'll need to make alternative arrangements to address the conflict of interest. The meeting ended. Naomi walked out on shaking legs. In the hallway, Ethan caught her arm. Take it, he said quietly. The Seattle position, it's everything you deserve without the complications. You want me to leave? I want you to be free of this mess. Of me. Naomi pulled her arm away. Don't make this decision for me. I'm not. I'm just telling you what I'd do in your position. You're not in my position. You're the CEO. You get to stay while I'm the one being pushed out. That's not... Ethan stopped. Frustration etched across his face. You're right. This isn't fair. None of this is fair. No, it's not. She walked away before he could see her cry. The rest of Monday passed in a fog. Naomi moved through meetings on autopilot, her mind spinning through impossible calculations. Seattle meant starting over. New team, new city, new schools for Marcus. It meant leaving her mother, who'd finally found doctors who understood her condition. It meant 3,000 miles between her and the only man who'd ever made her feel seen. But staying meant living under suspicion, meant watching Derek smirk every time she walked past, meant carefully maintain distance from Ethan that would slowly kill whatever existed between them anyway. She was weighing her own destruction, trying to choose which version hurt less. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table staring at the Seattle offer letter while Marcus did homework and Eleanor prepared dinner. The apartment smelled like garlic and tomatoes, familiar and grounding. "You're thinking too hard," Eleanor said, setting down a glass of wine Naomi hadn't asked for but desperately needed. "I have an impossible choice to make." "Then stop thinking of it as impossible. What does your gut tell you?" Naomi took a long sip of wine. "My gut says I shouldn't have to choose between my career and staying near my family. My gut says Derek Chen is a vindictive coward, and I refuse to let him win." "Good gut." Eleanor sat across from her. "So what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know yet, but I'm tired of playing defense." The next morning, Naomi requested a meeting with Miranda Torres. She arrived with a folder containing 2 years of performance reviews, client testimonials, and project outcomes that spoke for themselves. "I appreciate the Seattle offer," Naomi began, "but I'm not taking it." Miranda's eyebrows rose. "Ms. Carter, I understand this is difficult, but the conflict of interest is manufactured." Naomi opened her folder. Derek Chen filed his complaint 3 days after I rejected his request to join the Horizon team. I have the email thread. He called my leadership style unnecessarily rigid and suggested I was playing favorites with my existing team members. That doesn't necessarily indicate. He also sent an email to 4 colleagues the night before filing with HR, asking if they'd noticed anything inappropriate between Mr. Whitmore and myself. I have copies from James Park, who forwarded them to me. Derek wasn't raising legitimate concerns. He was manufacturing a case because I wouldn't give him what he wanted. Miranda's expression shifted. "You're alleging retaliation?" "I'm providing evidence of it." Naomi slid documents across the desk. "My promotion was announced April 3rd. Derek requested a position on my team April 5th. I declined April 6th. He filed his HR complaint April 8th. The timeline speaks for itself." Miranda reviewed the documents in silence. Finally, she looked up. "This changes things. If Mr. Chen was acting in bad faith, we need to investigate the complaint itself, not just the allegations. All I'm asking is that you look at the actual facts, my work history, my qualifications, the legitimate business reasons for every interaction Derek's questioned." Naomi's voice steadied. "I've spent 9 years proving myself in rooms where people assumed I didn't belong. I won't let office politics undo what I've built." "What about your relationship with Mr. Whitmore? Even without Derek's complaint, there are optics to consider." "Ethan Whitmore is my CEO. I respect him professionally. Beyond that, my personal feelings are irrelevant to my job performance." Naomi met Miranda's gaze directly. "If the company's position is that employees can't have personal regard for their supervisors, you'll need to fire half the staff who admire their managers. The question isn't whether feelings exist. It's whether they've compromised professional conduct. And the answer, based on every metric that matters, is no." Miranda made several notes. "I'll need to review this new information with the board. In the meantime, your promotion stands and you'll continue in your current role." "Thank you." Naomi left the office feeling lighter than she had in days. She'd played offense instead of defense. Now she had to wait and see if it was enough. That afternoon, Sarah Chen from Horizon Tech called requesting an emergency meeting. Naomi's stomach dropped. Had the rumors reached their biggest client? She found Sarah waiting in the lobby, impeccably dressed as always, her expression unreadable. "Sarah, if this is it's about Derek Chen," Sarah's voice was ice, "who apparently thought it appropriate to contact me directly with concerns about the stability of our account leadership." Naomi's blood went cold. "He did what?" "Called my office yesterday. Suggested that recent organizational turmoil at Caldwell and Rowe might impact our partnership. Implied that your position was uncertain due to personal complications." Sarah's eyes flashed. "I don't appreciate vendors using my company as ammunition in their internal politics." "Sarah, I am so sorry. That was completely inappropriate and unauthorized." "Damn right it was. Which is why I want you to know that I've sent a formal complaint to your HR department about Derek's contact. I also CC'd Ethan Whitmore because this kind of behavior reflects poorly on your company's professionalism." Despite everything, Naomi felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you. That means more than you know. Naomi, I don't care about office gossip. I care about results. And in 6 weeks, you've delivered more strategic value than some agencies manage in 6 months. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Whatever's happening internally, don't let small-minded people diminish what you've accomplished. After Sarah left, Naomi returned to her office to find an email from Miranda requesting Derek's presence at a meeting tomorrow morning. The tide was turning, but the personal situation with Ethan remained unresolved, a wound that wouldn't heal because neither of them could stop poking at it. He was waiting by her car that evening when she left the office. The parking garage was nearly empty, their voices echoing off concrete. I heard about Sarah's complaint, Ethan said without preamble. Derek's suspended pending investigation. Good. Naomi, I need to apologize. I should have shut this down the moment rumors started. Should have been more careful about what? Having coffee with a colleague? Working late? Treating me like the professional I am? Naomi's frustration boiled over. You did nothing wrong, Ethan. I did nothing wrong. Derek manufactured a crisis because his ego couldn't handle being told no. But the perception is Derek's problem, not ours. She stepped closer, tired of distance and caution. I'm not running to Seattle. I'm not letting gossip dictate my career, and I'm done pretending that what exists between us is somehow shameful. Ethan's eyes widened. Naomi, I'm not saying we act on it. I'm saying we stop treating it like a crime. Her voice dropped. You're an extraordinary leader who saw potential in a single mother without a fancy MBA and gave her opportunities to prove herself. I'm a strategist who worked my ass off to earn every promotion. That's the story, not whatever Derek was trying to sell. You make it sound simple. It is simple. The complication is us deciding it's complicated. Ethan reached out, then stopped himself, hand falling to his side. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we both do our jobs brilliantly and stop apologizing for respecting each other. Naomi unlocked her car. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Whitmore. She drove away before he could respond, before she could see the conflict warring across his features, before she could change her mind about any of it. The next 2 days brought swift justice. Derek's suspension became termination after HR discovered he'd violated company policy by contacting clients with false information. Several employees came forward with their own stories of his retaliation and manipulation. James stopped by Naomi's office with a bottle of champagne. He's gone, he announced. Walked out with a box of his belongings an hour ago looking like someone kicked his dog. I'm not celebrating someone losing their job, Naomi said, though relief flooded through her. I am. Derek was toxic long before this. You just gave HR the documentation they needed to act. James popped the champagne. To standing up to bullies. To standing up to bullies, Naomi echoed, accepting a plastic cup. But the Derek situation being resolved didn't fix the fundamental problem. The whispers had stopped, but the careful distance between her and Ethan remained. They were professional, courteous, careful never to be alone together longer than necessary. It was killing her. Friday afternoon, Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She almost deleted it until she saw the message. This is Sarah Chen. Are you free for coffee tomorrow? Personal matter, not business. Intrigued, Naomi agreed to meet at a cafe in Soho. Sarah was already waiting when she arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. Thank you for meeting me, Sarah said, ordering them both lattes. I wanted to talk off the record. About the Horizon account? About Ethan Whitmore. Naomi's stomach clenched. Sarah, I don't think... Relax. I'm not fishing for gossip. Sarah stirred her latte thoughtfully. I've known Ethan for 7 years. We were in a young professionals group together when he first took over Caldwell and Rowe. I watched him rebuild that company from his father's ashes while fighting imposter syndrome and a board that wanted him to fail. I didn't know that. Most people don't. Ethan keeps his struggles private. Sarah met Naomi's eyes. He's also been alone since I've known him. Married to the job, as they say, until recently. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm implying that I've sat in a dozen meetings with you both over the past 2 months, and the way that man looks at you when he thinks no one's watching is not professional courtesy. Naomi's heart hammered. Sarah, I'm also implying that the way you look at him suggests the feeling's mutual. Sarah leaned forward. Look, I don't know the details and I don't need to, but I do know that finding someone who challenges you intellectually and respects you professionally is rare. And letting office politics destroy that is tragic. It's not that simple. He's my boss. There are rules, expectations. There are also transfer options, organizational restructures, and creative solutions if people are willing to look for them. Sarah's voice gentled. I left a job I loved 3 years ago because I fell in love with someone 2 levels above me in the organization. We tried to make it work while maintaining the reporting structure. It was miserable for both of us. What did you do? I took a lateral position in a different division. Same company, different reporting chain. 2 years later, we got married. Sarah smiled. Best decision I ever made, even though it meant temporarily stepping away from my dream role. But you lost momentum in your career. I thought I would. Instead, the new role gave me skills I wouldn't have developed otherwise. Led me to Horizon, actually. Sometimes the detour is the actual path. Naomi absorbed this in silence. Why are you telling me this? Because I see you at a crossroads, and I've been there. And I want you to know that choosing love doesn't mean abandoning ambition. Sometimes it means finding a different route to the same destination. After Sarah left, Naomi sat alone with her cooling latte and a head full of possibilities she'd been too afraid to consider. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Marcus slept in the next room, and her mother's gentle snoring drifted through the apartment. Her phone sat on the nightstand, Ethan's number saved but never called for anything personal. Before she could overthink it, she typed a message. Are you awake? The response came within seconds. Yes. Everything okay? Can we talk? Not about work. A pause that felt eternal. Then, when? Now? I could come to you, or we could meet somewhere neutral. My place. I'll text you the address. Naomi slipped out of bed, scribbled a note for her mother in case she woke, and caught a cab to the Upper West Side. Ethan's apartment building was elegant but understated, the kind of place that whispered wealth rather than shouting it. He answered the door in jeans and a worn Columbia t-shirt, looking more relaxed and more nervous than she'd ever seen him. Hi, he said. Hi. They stood in his foyer like awkward teenagers until Ethan gestured toward the living room. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves dominated one wall. A piano sat in the corner, sheet music scattered across its surface. You really do play, Naomi said. Badly. But it helps me think. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Can I get you something? Wine, coffee, water? Wine would be good. He poured 2 glasses of red and they settled on opposite ends of his couch, maintaining careful distance even in private. I've been thinking, Naomi began, about what you said, about wanting me but it being inappropriate, about how my promotion complicated things. Naomi, let me finish. She took a steadying breath. I spent 9 years building my career on a foundation of being unimpeachable. Perfect attendance, perfect performance, perfect professionalism. Because I knew people were watching for me to fail, waiting to say I couldn't handle motherhood and a demanding job, that I was too young, too inexperienced, too much of a risk. You've proven all of them wrong. Have I? Or have I just avoided giving them ammunition? Naomi set down her wine. I'm so afraid of being seen as someone who traded on sexuality or charm instead of competence that I've refused to acknowledge I'm a human being with human wants. What do you want? Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. I want to stop pretending I don't have feelings for you. I want to stop apologizing for the fact that you're brilliant and kind and you see me in ways no one else does. I want... Her voice caught. I want to figure out if there's a version of this that doesn't require me to sacrifice everything I've built. Ethan moved closer, closing the distance between them. I want that too. I want it so much it's affecting my judgment. I find myself engineering reasons to work with you, looking for excuses to call you into my office, staying late on the off chance you'll still be there. That's not affecting your judgment. That's just wanting to be near someone. It's a conflict of interest. Then we eliminate the conflict. Naomi pulled out her phone and opened her email. Miranda sent me a revised offer this afternoon. There's a new digital marketing division launching in 3 months. It would be autonomous, separate from traditional client services. I'd report directly to the board, not to you. Ethan stared at the email. You'd run an entire division. It's a promotion from my current role. More responsibility, more autonomy, more strategic impact, and no reporting relationship between us whatsoever. You'd take this? Even though it means starting something completely new? I take it because it's the right next step for my career. The fact that it also solves our professional complication is a bonus. Naomi met his eyes. But I need to know if there's something here worth solving for. Because I'm not rearranging my professional life for a maybe. Ethan reached out and took her hand, the first time he'd really touched her since San Francisco. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending electricity up her arm. There is absolutely something here, he said quietly. I've been in love with you for over a year, Naomi. I just convinced myself it was impossible, so I buried it under professionalism and distance and every defense mechanism I could build. A year? There was a late night last March. You were working on the Vertex pitch, and you'd been there since 6 a.m. I came by your desk around 10 p.m. to tell you to go home. You had Marcus's drawing taped to your monitor, that one with the superhero cape labeled My Mom. And you were on the phone with him, promising you'd be home soon, and your voice was so tender, so full of love. Ethan's voice roughened. I realized in that moment that I was watching the strongest person I knew, and I wanted to be worthy of you. Tears blurred Naomi's vision. You've always been worthy. You saw potential in me when I was terrified I'd made a mistake taking this job. When I thought single motherhood meant I'd never have opportunities like other people. You created those opportunities yourself. You gave me the platform to do it. She squeezed his hand. We've been dancing around this for so long. I'm tired of dancing. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll take the digital division role. I'm saying we do this right, with full transparency to HR and the board. I'm saying we date like normal people, slowly and carefully, with clear boundaries between professional and personal. Naomi's voice steadied. And I'm saying that I'm falling in love with you too, have been for longer than I want to admit. Ethan cupped her face in his hands, his expression a mixture of wonder and relief. Are you sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back to what we were. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he'd been entrusted to protect. Naomi melted into it, into him, into the feeling of finally letting down walls she'd maintained for too long. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. We should tell HR immediately, he said. File disclosure paperwork. Make sure everything's documented properly. Always the responsible CEO. I have a lot to protect now. He kissed her again, deeper this time. Including you. They spent the rest of the night talking through logistics, making plans, mapping out how to navigate the complicated terrain ahead. By the time Naomi caught a cab home at 3 a.m., they had a strategy that honored both their feelings and their professional obligations. Monday morning, they met with Miranda Torres together. I'm accepting the digital division role, Naomi announced. Effective as soon as the transition can be arranged. And we're filing relationship disclosure paperwork, Ethan added. Ms. Carter and I are involved personally, but the new organizational structure eliminates any reporting conflict. Miranda looked between them, surprise flickering across her professional mask. You understand this will be scrutinized carefully. We expect it to be, Naomi said, which is why we're being completely transparent. I'm taking a legitimate promotion that advances my career independent of my relationship with Mr. Whitmore. The timing solves a complication, but the opportunity stands on its own merit. The board will need to approve both the division creation and your appointment. I have a full proposal ready, Ethan said, sliding a document across the desk. Digital marketing is our fastest growing revenue stream. It deserves dedicated leadership and strategic investment. Mrs. The board at Wednesday's meeting. In the board at Wednesday's meeting. In the meantime, you're both required to maintain professional boundaries in the office until the organizational change is formalized. Understood, they said in unison. Walking out of HR together felt like crossing a finish line and starting a race simultaneously. Naomi caught Ethan's eye and saw her own mixture of excitement and terror reflected back. We're really doing this, she said quietly. We're really doing this. That evening, Naomi sat Marcus down for a conversation she'd been rehearsing mentally all day. Baby, I need to talk to you about something important. Marcus looked up from his homework with immediate concern. Are we moving? You said we weren't moving. We're not moving, but there are going to be some changes, good changes. Naomi took a deep breath. You know Mr. Whitmore, my boss? The tall guy with the serious face? That's him. Well, he's going to be around more, outside of work, because we're dating. Marcus's eyes went wide. Like boyfriend-girlfriend dating? Yes, like that. Does that mean he's going to be my dad? The question hit Naomi like a physical blow. No, baby. Your dad will always be your dad, even though he's not around. Mr. Whitmore is just someone who's important to me. Someone I want you to get to know. Marcus processed this with the seriousness of someone much older. Is he nice to you? Very nice. Does he make you happy? He does. Then okay. Marcus returned to his homework as if they'd discussed the weather. Can he throw a baseball? Grandma says she's too old to teach me curveballs. Naomi laughed, relief and love flooding through her. I'll ask him. Eleanor was less easily convinced. She cornered Naomi in the kitchen later that night while Marcus was in bed. You're sure about this? Her mother asked. Office romances are complicated, baby, especially with power dynamics involved. I'm taking a different position. We won't be in direct reporting relationship anymore. That's not what I'm asking. Eleanor's gaze was piercing. I'm asking if you're ready for what happens when relationships end. If you're prepared to still see him every day if things don't work out. I know the risks, Mom. I've thought about them constantly. But you're doing it anyway. I'm doing it anyway. Naomi met her mother's eyes. Because I spent 9 years being responsible and careful and making every decision based on what was safest for Marcus. And this is the first time I've wanted something just for me. Something that feels like breathing after holding my breath for years. Eleanor's expression softened. Then I hope he deserves you. He does. I think he really does. The board approved the digital division on Wednesday. Naomi's appointment was announced Friday. She had 6 weeks to transition her current accounts and build a team from scratch. 6 weeks that she spent in a carefully maintained professional bubble at work and stolen moments of personal connection outside it. Coffee dates before the office opened. Late dinners after Marcus was asleep. Walks through Central Park where they talked about everything and nothing. Ethan met Marcus on a Saturday afternoon at a baseball field, teaching him curveballs with patience Naomi hadn't known he possessed. She watched them from the bleachers, her son laughing as Ethan demonstrated proper grip, and felt something settle in her chest that might have been hope. He's good with kids, Eleanor observed, sitting beside her daughter. He's good at most things. He looks at you like you hung the moon. The feeling's mutual. Eleanor patted Naomi's hand. Then maybe this crazy thing will work after all. By the time Naomi officially moved into her new role, the office gossip had shifted from scandal to grudging acceptance. She'd proven herself too many times for anyone to credibly claim she'd slept her way into success. And Ethan's careful maintenance of professional boundaries at work left no ammunition for critics. Her first day as division director, Naomi stood in her new office overlooking Madison Avenue and called her team together. We're building something new here, she told the 8 strategists she'd recruited. We're going to push boundaries, take risks, and prove that digital marketing deserves a seat at the strategy table. We're going to work hard, support each other, and create campaigns that change how clients think about their brands. James, who'd transferred to join her team, raised his coffee cup. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, they echoed. That night, Ethan took her to dinner at a quiet restaurant in Brooklyn, far from the financial district and office politics. How was day 1? He asked. Terrifying and perfect. Naomi reached across the table and took his hand without hesitation. Thank you for believing I could do this. You didn't need me to believe. You've always known what you're capable of. Maybe, but having you in my corner made it easier to take the leap. Ethan's thumb traced patterns on her palm. I have something for you. He pulled out a small box, and Naomi's heart stopped. Relax, he said with a smile. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. Inside the box was a silver key. To my apartment, Ethan explained. I know we're taking things slowly, and I'm not asking you to move in, but I want you to have access. Want you to know you're always welcome in my space. That this is real, and I'm committed to figuring it out together." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. "Ethan, you gave me a key to your heart when you trusted me with the truth about how you felt. This is me doing the same." He closed her fingers around the key. No pressure, no expectations, just an open door. She kissed him across the table, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except the feeling of finally being exactly where she was supposed to be. The next weeks unfolded with a rhythm that felt both new and inevitable. Naomi and Ethan navigated their relationship with the same strategic thinking they brought to business. Clear communication, realistic expectations, boundaries that protected both their connection and their professional reputations. Marcus warmed to Ethan gradually, won over by baseball lessons and genuine interest in his interests. Eleanor remained cautiously supportive, watching closely but giving them space to figure things out. At work, Naomi's division thrived. Her first major campaign for a tech startup went viral, generating industry buzz and 3 new client inquiries. The board took notice. Ethan sent her a simple email. "Told you so." She sent back, "Confidence looks good on you." His response made her blush at her desk. "Everything looks good on you. See you tonight?" 3 months into their relationship, Naomi woke in Ethan's bed on a Sunday morning to find him already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" she asked, self-conscious. "Just thinking about how different life looked a year ago, how I convinced myself being alone was easier than being vulnerable. And now? Now I can't imagine my life without you in it." He pulled her closer. "You and Marcus and Eleanor and this whole beautiful, complicated package that terrifies and thrills me simultaneously." Naomi rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I love you. I love you too." So much it sometimes feels impossible to contain. They lay there in comfortable silence until Marcus's scheduled video call reminder chimed on Naomi's phone. She'd promised to help him with a school project from Ethan's apartment. "I should get that," she said reluctantly. "Invite him over. We could work on it together." "You sure?" "I'm sure." An hour later, Marcus arrived with Eleanor in tow, arms full of poster board and markers. They spread out in Ethan's living room, creating a solar system model, while Eleanor observed from the kitchen with coffee and knowing smiles. "Mr. Whitmore, did you know that Jupiter has 79 moons?" Marcus asked. "I didn't. That's remarkable." "Mom says you're really smart about business stuff. Are you smart about space too?" Ethan caught Naomi's eye, amusement dancing in his expression. "I'm learning. Your mom's teaching me a lot of things." "Like what?" "Like how to be braver than I thought I could be." Marcus considered this seriously. "Mom's the bravest person I know. She does scary stuff all the time." "She really is," Ethan agreed quietly, his gaze on Naomi. Later, after Marcus and Eleanor left, Naomi helped Ethan clean up the craft supplies scattered across his pristine apartment. "This was good," he said. "Having everyone here. Felt like family," Naomi supplied. "Yeah, family." He pulled her into his arms. "Is it too soon to want that? To want Sunday mornings like this forever?" "Probably. But I want it too." She kissed him softly. "So maybe we're both crazy. Or maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Standing in his living room, surrounded by evidence of the life they were building together, Naomi finally allowed herself to believe it, that she could have both ambition and love, that choosing one didn't mean sacrificing the other, that the impossible choice she'd been presented with had a third option she'd been too afraid to see. She'd spent so long protecting herself that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be open, to be vulnerable, to trust that someone could see all of her, the fierce professional, the devoted mother, the woman who wanted love but feared its cost, and choose her anyway. Ethan chose her, every day, in ways large and small, in the respect he showed her work, in the patience he demonstrated with her son, in the way he looked at her across conference rooms and dinner tables like she was the most fascinating person in any room. And she chose him back, chose to believe in second chances and new beginnings, chose to bet on the possibility that some risks were worth taking. The road ahead wouldn't be simple. There would be office politics to navigate, skeptics to prove wrong, moments when balancing career and relationship felt impossibly hard. But looking at Ethan now, at the life taking shape around them, Naomi felt something she hadn't allowed herself in years. She felt hope. Hope, Naomi was learning, didn't mean the absence of fear. It meant moving forward despite it. 6 months into running the digital division, she stood before the board presenting quarterly results that exceeded projections by 40%. Her team had landed 8 major clients, developed proprietary analytics tools, and established Caldwell and Rowe as an industry leader in digital strategy. Ethan sat at the far end of the conference table, his expression professionally neutral, but Naomi caught the brief flash of pride in his eyes when she clicked to the final slide showing revenue growth. "Exceptional work, Ms. Carter," said Margaret Sterling, the board's longest-serving member. "This division has become one of our most profitable units in record time." "Thank you. My team deserves the credit. I just gave them the framework to excel." "Modesty aside," Margaret continued, "the board would like to discuss expansion. We're considering opening a West Coast office focused exclusively on tech sector clients. We'd want you to lead the build-out." Naomi's heart skipped. This was the opportunity she'd been working toward her entire career. "I'd be honored to develop a proposal." "There's one complication." Margaret glanced at Ethan. "It would require significant time in San Francisco during the setup phase. Possibly 6 months of weekly travel, maybe temporary relocation." The air shifted. Naomi felt rather than saw Ethan's tension across the room. "I understand," she said carefully. "I'd need to consider the logistics given my personal circumstances." "Of course. We're not asking for an answer today, but this represents a significant growth opportunity for both you and the company." After the meeting, Naomi returned to her office and closed the door. Her phone buzzed immediately. "Ethan, can we talk tonight?" She texted back in your place, after I put Marcus to bed. The hours until evening crawled past. Naomi went through the motions of work while her mind spun through impossible calculations. 6 months of weekly travel meant missing Marcus's baseball games, Eleanor's doctor appointments, the daily routines that anchored their lives. Temporary relocation meant uprooting her son again, pulling him from schools and friends he'd finally settled into. But it also meant building something extraordinary, proving she could scale success, securing their financial future beyond anything she'd imagined possible. When she finally arrived at Ethan's apartment, he had wine poured and Thai food laid out, but neither of them touched it. "San Francisco," he said quietly. "San Francisco," she echoed. "It's an incredible opportunity. It's also 6 months of our relationship existing primarily over video calls." Naomi sank onto his couch. "Right when things are finally stable, right when Marcus is starting to see you as a permanent part of our lives." Ethan sat beside her, maintaining careful distance. "What do you want to do?" "I want to clone myself. One version goes to San Francisco and builds an empire. The other stays here with you and Marcus and doesn't miss a single baseball game." "If cloning were possible, I'd want both versions." His attempt at humor fell flat. "Naomi, I won't lie and say I'm not terrified of 6 months apart, but I'm more terrified of you resenting me if you turn this down." "I wouldn't resent you. This isn't your choice to make." "Isn't it? We're building a life together. That means my needs matter and your decisions just like yours matter in mine." Naomi leaned against him, breathing in his familiar scent. "What are your needs?" "I need you to chase every dream you have. I need to support you the way you've supported me. And I need to trust that 6 months of distance won't destroy what we've built." His arm came around her shoulders. "But I also need you to know that I'll be here, waiting, missing you every single day, but so proud of what you're accomplishing." You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's agonizing. But the alternative, you staying because you're afraid of what distance might do to us, that's worse. Naomi tilted her face up to his. "When did you become so wise?" "Since I fell in love with a woman who taught me that courage looks like doing terrifying things anyway." They made love that night with desperate intensity, as if physical closeness could somehow bridge the distance looming ahead. Afterward, lying tangled in Ethan's sheets, Naomi traced patterns on his chest. "I haven't decided yet," she said quietly. "About San Francisco." "I know. But if I do go, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise you won't put your life on hold waiting for me. That you'll keep living, keep working, keep being the extraordinary person you are. Ethan caught her hand and pressed it over his heart. I promise, if you promise the same, that you'll build something incredible without guilt. That you'll let yourself succeed without apologizing for it. Deal. The next morning, Naomi sat Marcus down for another serious conversation. Remember how we talked about my job sometimes requiring travel? She began. Marcus looked up from his cereal with immediate suspicion. How much travel? Potentially a lot. There's an opportunity to help open a new office in California. It would mean I'd be gone a few days every week for several months. Would we have to move again? No, baby. This is our home. You'd stay here with Grandma. I'd just be traveling back and forth. Marcus processed this with his characteristic seriousness. Would Mr. Whitmore go with you? No, he'd stay here too. So you'd both be sad and missing each other? The simplicity of childhood perception cut right through adult rationalizations. Yeah, we probably would be. But it's important for your job? It could be. It's a chance to do something really special. Marcus pushed his cereal around his bowl. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to marry Mr. Whitmore? Naomi's breath caught. Why do you ask that? Because Tommy's mom got a new boyfriend, and then they got married, and now Tommy has to share a room with his stepbrother, and he hates it. Marcus's voice wavered. I don't want to share my room. Oh, baby. Naomi pulled him into her lap, even though he was getting too big for it. First, nobody's making you share your room. Second, if Mr. Whitmore and I ever got to that point, and I'm not saying we are, we'd talk to you about it first. You'd have a say. Really? Really? You're the most important person in my life. That doesn't change because I care about someone else too. Marcus relaxed slightly. Okay, then I guess it's okay if you go to California sometimes, as long as you call me every night. Every single night, I promise. Eleanor was harder to convince. 6 months is a long time, her mother said that evening while Marcus was at a friend's house. For you, for Marcus, for your relationship with Ethan. I know. So why are you even considering it? Naomi stared into her coffee. Because I spent my whole life being told that women like me, single mothers, without connections or degrees from fancy schools, we don't get opportunities like this. We're supposed to be grateful for whatever scraps we can get. And here's this chance to prove everyone wrong. To build something from nothing and show Marcus that limitations are just stories other people tell about you. That's your ambition talking. What's your heart saying? My heart's saying I'm terrified, that I finally have stability and love and everything I wanted, and chasing more feels greedy. Eleanor set down her own cup. Can I tell you something about your father? Naomi blinked. Her mother rarely spoke about the man who'd left before she was born. Okay. He was ambitious, wanted to be a musician, travel the world, make something of himself. When I got pregnant, he saw it as an anchor holding him back from his dreams. Eleanor's voice was steady, but sad. He chose his ambition over us, and for years I thought ambition itself was the enemy, that wanting more meant abandoning the people you love. Mom, but I was wrong. Your father's problem wasn't ambition, it was cowardice. He couldn't figure out how to pursue his dreams while honoring his responsibilities, so he ran. Eleanor reached across and took Naomi's hand. You're not him. You're asking the hard questions, making sure Marcus is cared for, building something sustainable. That's not abandonment. That's showing your son what it looks like to reach for excellence. Tears blurred Naomi's vision. What if I fail? What if I'm gone all that time and it doesn't work and I've sacrificed months with Marcus for nothing? Then you'll have tried. And that's a lesson worth teaching too. That night, Naomi called Ethan from her bedroom after Marcus was asleep. I'm going to do it, she said without preamble. I'm going to take the San Francisco project. Silence on the other end. Then, you're sure? No, I'm terrified, but I think I have to do this anyway. Then I'm behind you completely. His voice was rough. We'll make it work, Naomi, however we need to. I'm going to need you to be honest with me. If the distance gets too hard, if you start feeling like this isn't sustainable, I'll tell you, I promise. A pause. Will you do the same? Yes? Then we have a plan. You go be extraordinary in San Francisco. I'll hold down the fort here, and we'll prove that love doesn't require constant proximity. Naomi closed her eyes. I love you. I love you too, more than I knew I could love anyone. The next 6 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Naomi assembled a core team for the West Coast office, developed operational frameworks, secured office space in the financial district. She worked 16-hour days while simultaneously making sure Marcus's homework was done, Eleanor's prescriptions were filled, and every moment with Ethan counted. They stole time where they could find it. Early morning coffee before the office opened, late dinners after business obligations, a weekend getaway to a bed and breakfast in Vermont where they turned off their phones and pretended the world didn't exist beyond the 4-poster bed and fireplace. I'm memorizing this, Ethan said, tracing the curve of her spine in the firelight. The way you look right now, the sound of your laugh when I make terrible jokes, the feeling of waking up next to you. We'll have video calls, Naomi reminded him, though her voice caught. It's not the same as touching you. No, it's not. He pulled her closer. 6 months. We can survive 6 months. We can survive anything. But saying it and believing it were different things. Naomi's first trip to San Francisco came 2 weeks later. She flew out Monday morning and returned Thursday night, cramming 5 days of work into 4. Marcus cried when she left and clung to her when she returned. Ethan maintained careful composure, but she felt the tension in his shoulders when he held her at the airport. How was it? He asked, driving her home. Productive. Exhausting. Lonely. Naomi watched the city lights blur past. I had dinner with the team Tuesday night and found myself telling a story about Marcus. Realized halfway through that I was the only one at the table with kids. The only one who had to schedule calls around bedtime routines. Did they treat you differently because of it? No, but I felt different, like I was straddling 2 worlds that don't quite overlap. Ethan's hand found hers. You're allowed to feel torn. I know. I just wish I didn't. The pattern established itself over the following months. Naomi flew to San Francisco every week, usually Monday through Thursday, occasionally stretching into Friday if client needs demanded it. She video called Marcus every night without fail, helping with homework over FaceTime and reading bedtime stories to a screen. She and Ethan maintained their connection through late-night calls, stolen weekends, and the kind of communication that distance either destroys or deepens. For them, it deepened. I miss your face, she told him one night from her hotel room overlooking the Bay Bridge. I miss everything about you. Your face, your voice, the way you steal the covers. I do not steal the covers. You absolutely do, and I miss it. His image on the screen looked tired. How's the Coleman pitch going? We won it. Signed contracts this afternoon. Naomi, that's incredible. That's a $15 million account. 16, actually. They increased scope. She tried to muster enthusiasm, but felt only exhaustion. Ethan, I think I need to stay through the weekend. We're negotiating terms, and you're missing Marcus's game. His voice was carefully neutral. I know. I'm the worst mother in the world. You're not. You're building something important. That doesn't make missing his game hurt less. Naomi pressed her palms against her eyes. He's been practicing that curveball you taught him for weeks. He wanted to show me. I'll record it. Send it to you right after. It's not the same. No, Ethan agreed quietly. It's not. The weekend she missed Marcus's game, Naomi closed the Coleman deal and secured 2 additional client meetings that could transform the West Coast office into a powerhouse. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt hollow. When she finally returned to New York Monday evening, Marcus was polite but distant. He showed her his participation trophy from the game without enthusiasm. Grandma said you had to work, he said. I did, baby. I'm so sorry I missed it. It's okay. Mr. Whitmore came. Naomi's heart clenched. He did? Yeah. He recorded everything and bought me ice cream after and said you'd be really proud of me. She pulled Marcus into a hug he tolerated but didn't fully return. When Eleanor came to take him to bed, Naomi sat alone in her apartment feeling like the worst version of herself. Her phone rang. Ethan. Marcus told you I went to his game, he said. Thank you for being there. Of course. But Naomi, He needed his mom. He was so excited to show you what he'd learned, and when you weren't there, something in his face just... Ethan stopped. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just telling you what I saw. I already feel guilty enough for both of us. I know you do, which is why I'm also telling you that he was incredible. That curveball was perfect, and he struck out 2 batters, and afterward he said, I wish Mom could have seen that. Naomi felt tears spill over. I'm failing him. You're not failing anyone. You're making impossible choices in an impossible situation. That's just a nice way of saying I'm failing. It's a true way of saying you're human. Ethan's voice gentled. How much longer until the office is fully operational? Another 3 months, maybe 4? Can you do 3 more months of this? I don't know. Can you? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Ethan said, I miss you so much it physically hurts. I go to bed in an apartment that still smells like your shampoo, and I wake up reaching for you and you're not there. I see something funny, and my first instinct is to text you, and then I remember you're in a meeting 3 time zones away. Ethan, but I also see you building something extraordinary. I see you proving that a single mother from nothing can create an entire division that's revolutionizing how we approach digital strategy. And I'm so proud of you, I can barely contain it. His voice cracked. So yes, I can do 3 more months because you're worth waiting for. Naomi cried then, really cried, in a way she hadn't allowed herself since this whole thing started. I don't know if I can keep doing this, missing everything that matters while chasing something that might not even last. Do you believe in what you're building? Yes. Do you believe it's making a difference? Yes. Then you can keep going, because you're the strongest person I know, and you don't give up when things get hard. They talked until Naomi's tears subsided and exhaustion pulled at both of them. After hanging up, she sat in the darkness of her apartment and made a decision. The next morning, she called Margaret Sterling. I need to modify the San Francisco timeline, Naomi said. I can have the office fully operational in 10 weeks if I bring in additional support. After that, I want to transition to remote oversight with monthly on-site visits rather than weekly travel. That's aggressive, Margaret said. Can your team handle the acceleration? They're the best in the business. I wouldn't propose it otherwise. What's driving this change? Naomi chose honesty. I have a 7-year-old son who needs his mother more than he needs me, proving I can work 100-hour weeks. I've built the foundation. Now I need to trust my team to run with it while I maintain strategic direction without sacrificing my family. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. You know, when I made partner 30 years ago, I missed my daughter's 8th birthday for a client meeting. She's 40 now and still mentions it. A sigh came through the phone. Do it. Accelerate the timeline. Get your life back. Naomi felt something loosen in her chest. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that sustainable success requires sustainable life choices. The board will support whatever structure you need. The next 10 weeks were brutal. Naomi threw everything she had into accelerating the office launch. She recruited aggressively, delegated ruthlessly, and worked with a focus that bordered on obsessive. She still missed Marcus's bedtimes more often than she made them. Still felt the strain of distance with Ethan. But there was an endpoint now. A finish line. She called him one night from her hotel room, bone-tired but exhilarated. It's working, she said. The team's executing flawlessly. We're ahead of schedule. When do you come home? The naked hope in Ethan's voice made her ache. 10 more days, then I'm back permanently. Permanently? Monthly visits to San Francisco, but my primary base is New York, with you and Marcus and my actual life. She heard him exhale shakily. I've been counting days. Did you know that? Like some lovesick teenager. Every morning I wake up and think one day closer. I've been doing the same thing. Naomi, when you get back, I want to talk about our future, about what comes next for us. Her heart stuttered. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent 6 months missing you and realizing that I don't want to spend the rest of my life in a holding pattern. I want to move forward, together. Ethan, I'm not proposing over the phone, but I'm telling you that I'm going to propose, soon, and I want you to think about whether that's something you want too. Naomi's hands trembled. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. You, Marcus, Eleanor, you're my family. I want to make it official. I need to talk to Marcus first. Make sure he's ready for that kind of change. Of course. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just telling you where my head is, where my heart is. After they hung up, Naomi lay in the darkness of her hotel room and imagined the future Ethan was describing. Waking up next to him every morning instead of on alternating weekends. Marcus having a father figure who chose to be present. Building a life that didn't require constant compromise between ambition and love. It felt terrifyingly perfect. Her last week in San Francisco culminated in a launch event for the new office. Major clients, industry press, the full board of Caldwell and Rowe. Naomi stood before a room of 200 people and felt the weight of what she'd accomplished. 6 months ago, this office was just an idea, she told the assembled crowd. Today, it's a fully operational division with 12 employees, 18 active clients, and projected revenue that exceeds our most optimistic forecasts. We didn't get here because one person worked impossible hours. We got here because I assembled a team of exceptional strategists and trusted them to be exceptional. The applause was genuine. Afterward, Sarah Chen pulled her aside. I heard you're heading back to New York permanently, Sarah said. Monthly visits, but yes, my primary base is New York. Smart move. I've watched too many brilliant people burn out chasing impossible standards. Sarah smiled. For what it's worth, you've proven everything you needed to prove. Now go live your life. On the flight home that Friday evening, Naomi felt lighter than she had in months. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Marcus and I are picking you up. He made a welcome home sign. She texted back a heart emoji, unable to articulate the fullness in her chest. They were waiting at arrivals when she emerged. Ethan in jeans and a sweater, Marcus holding a poster board covered in marker drawings of airplanes and hearts that read, Welcome home, Mom. Marcus launched himself at her before she'd fully cleared the doors. She caught him, breathing in the scent of his hair, feeling his solid weight in her arms. I missed you so much, baby. I missed you more. Mr. Whitmore said you're staying home now. Mostly staying home. Is that okay with you? It's perfect. Ethan took her bag with one hand and caught her free hand with the other. The simple domesticity of it, the three of them walking through the airport like a family, made Naomi's throat tight. In the car, Marcus chattered about school and baseball and a science project he was working on. Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel and the other occasionally brushing Naomi's knee, small touches that said, You're real, you're here, you're home. When they dropped Marcus at Eleanor's for a sleepover the women had conspired to arrange, Naomi finally had Ethan alone. Take me home, she said. My place or yours? Whichever has you in it. They chose his apartment because it was closer. The moment the door closed behind them, Ethan pulled her into a kiss that felt like 6 months of longing condensed into a single moment. I love you, he said against her mouth. I've been wanting to say that in person for so long. I love you too. I'm sorry I was gone so much. Don't apologize for being extraordinary. He rested his forehead against hers. You built something incredible, Naomi. I'm in awe of you. They made love slowly, relearning each other's bodies, reconnecting in ways video calls could never replicate. Afterward, wrapped in Ethan's arms in his bed, Naomi felt pieces of herself that had been scattered across 3,000 miles finally come back together. I talked to Marcus, she said quietly, about us, about the possibility of our relationship getting more serious. Ethan went very still. And? He asked if it meant he'd have to share his room. That's his primary concern? He's 7. Space is important. Naomi smiled. I told him nobody would make him share his room, that any future decisions would include his input. What did he say to that? He said as long as you keep teaching him baseball and don't try to be his dad, he's okay with you being around permanently. Ethan's arms tightened around her. I would never try to replace his father, but I'd be honored to be whatever he needs me to be. I know, that's why I said yes. Said yes to what? Naomi turned to face him. To whatever question you're planning to ask, whenever you're ready to ask it. Ethan's expression transformed into something radiant and slightly terrified. You're sure? I've spent 6 months learning that distance doesn't diminish what we have, that you show up for the people you love even when it's inconvenient, That you're the kind of partner who goes to a 7-year-old's baseball game because his mother couldn't be there. Naomi cupped his face in her hands. Yes, Ethan, I'm sure. He kissed her then, deep and slow and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he smiled against her lips. I don't have a ring yet. I wanted to do this properly. I don't need proper, I just need you. You have me. You've had me since San Francisco, maybe even before that. They lay tangled together until exhaustion and jet lag pulled Naomi towards sleep. Just before she drifted off, she felt Ethan's lips against her temple. Welcome home, he whispered. And finally, after 6 months of living in transit, Naomi was. The morning after Naomi's return, she woke to sunlight streaming through Ethan's bedroom windows and the unfamiliar luxury of nowhere urgent to be. No flight to catch, no client breakfast, no video call scheduled around time zones, just the warmth of Ethan's body beside hers and the quiet rhythm of Saturday morning. He was already awake, watching her with an expression that made her heart stumble. What? She asked, self-conscious. Just thinking about how different this feels, having you actually here instead of on a screen. Better or worse? Infinitely better. He pulled her closer. What's your plan for today? I need to pick up Marcus from Mom's. Probably do some laundry, grocery shopping, all the mundane things I've been neglecting for 6 months. What if I came with you, helped with the mundane things? Naomi studied his face. You want to do laundry and grocery shopping. I want to be part of your real life, not just the edited version that fits around work schedules. Ethan traced patterns on her shoulder. That includes boring Saturday errands. Something in Naomi's chest expanded. Okay, but I'm warning you, grocery shopping with a 7-year-old is basically combat negotiation about sugar cereal. I'm a CEO. I've survived hostile board meetings. I can handle cereal negotiations. They picked up Marcus mid-morning. Eleanor took one look at them standing on her doorstep together and smiled knowingly. Well, you two look rested, she said, which made Naomi blush and Ethan suddenly find the hallway very interesting. Marcus bounded out with a backpack and the manic energy of someone who'd been fed pancakes and allowed unlimited cartoon time. Mr. Whitmore, are you coming to help with groceries? If that's okay with you. Can we get the cereal with the marshmallows? That's a question for your mom. Marcus turned pleading eyes on Naomi. Mom, please. I haven't had it in forever. You had it last week. That was before you left for San Francisco. That's basically forever ago. Ethan's shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. Naomi shot him a look that promised retribution later. Fine. 1 box. But you're also eating actual fruit with breakfast. Deal. At the grocery store, they fell into an easy rhythm that surprised Naomi with its naturalness. Ethan pushed the cart while Marcus rode on the front, calling out items from Naomi's list. They debated vegetables, compromised on snacks, and had a brief disagreement about whether ice cream constituted a necessary household staple. It's dairy, Ethan argued with completely false seriousness, very nutritious. You're a terrible influence, Naomi said, but she added 2 pints to the cart anyway. In the cereal aisle, they ran into someone from Naomi's building, Mrs. Patterson, a retired teacher who'd lived on their floor for 20 years and made it her business to know everyone's business. Naomi? And this must be Marcus's father? Mrs. Patterson's eyes gleamed with curiosity. No, ma'am, Ethan said smoothly. I'm Ethan, a friend of the family. A very good friend from the looks of it. Mrs. Patterson winked unsubtly. Well, it's lovely to see Naomi with someone. She works too hard, this one, always rushing off somewhere. After she left, Marcus looked up at Ethan with confusion. Why didn't you tell her you're Mom's boyfriend? Because that's your mom's information to share, not mine. But you are her boyfriend, right? I am, but some things are private until your mom decides they're not. Marcus considered this seriously. That's pretty respectful. Thank you, I try. Naomi felt something settle in her chest, watching them interact. Ethan didn't try to force intimacy with Marcus or win him over with grand gestures. He just showed up, answered questions honestly, and respected boundaries. It was exactly what her son needed. Back at the apartment, they unpacked groceries together. Marcus disappeared into his room to play video games while Ethan helped Naomi organize her refrigerator. This feels very domestic, he observed, shelving milk next to eggs. Is that okay? It's perfect. He closed the refrigerator and pulled her into his arms. I've been thinking about the conversation we had last night, about the future. Naomi's pulse quickened. And? I want to do this right. I want to talk to Marcus properly, ask for his blessing. I want to meet with Eleanor and have the awkward conversation about my intentions. Ethan smiled. I want to plan something special for the actual proposal because you deserve romance, not just me blurting it out in my apartment. I like the blurting. You deserve better than blurting. He kissed her softly. Give me a week. Let me do this properly. True to his word, Ethan spent the next week orchestrating something Naomi only caught glimpses of. He took Marcus to lunch one afternoon, just the two of them. He had dinner with Eleanor while Naomi was at a late meeting. He was planning something, and everyone seemed to be in on it except her. You're all terrible at secrets, she told her mother on Thursday evening. Marcus keeps giggling whenever Ethan texts. I have no idea what you're talking about, Eleanor said with spectacularly unconvincing innocence. Work settled into a new rhythm. Naomi's digital division continued thriving under her remote oversight of the San Francisco office. She promoted 2 team members to senior roles, trusting them with client relationships she'd previously managed personally. It was terrifying and liberating simultaneously, letting go of control, believing her team could execute without her constant supervision. At the office, she and Ethan maintained professional boundaries with practiced ease. They'd learned over months of scrutiny exactly how to interact in ways that honored both their relationship and their roles. Closed-door meetings always had legitimate business purposes. Email exchanges stayed focused. They saved the personal connection for after hours, keeping work and love in separate compartments that only intersected when absolutely necessary. But everyone knew. Not because they were indiscreet, but because happiness has a way of making itself visible. Naomi smiled more in meetings. Ethan's legendary intensity softened around the edges. James teased her mercilessly about it. You're disgustingly content, he said one afternoon, reviewing campaign analytics in her office. It's throwing off the entire team's cynical New Yorker vibe. I'm still plenty cynical. You hummed in this morning's meeting. I did not. You absolutely did. During the budget discussion, humming, James grinned. It's good to see you happy, Naomi. Really good. Friday evening, Ethan texted her. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? I have something planned. She texted back. How fancy should I dress? Somewhere between casual and special, trust me? Always. Saturday arrived with crisp autumn air and the kind of perfect weather that made New York feel like the center of the universe. Naomi dressed in a deep blue dress that Marcus said made her look like a princess but cooler, which she decided to take as a compliment. Ethan picked her up at 2 o'clock, looking unfairly handsome in dark jeans and a gray sweater. He kissed her thoroughly before helping her into his car. Where are we going? She asked. You'll see. They drove through the city, past familiar neighborhoods, and into areas Naomi didn't immediately recognize. Finally, Ethan pulled up to a beautiful park she'd never visited. I didn't know this was here, she said, climbing out. Most people don't. It's one of those hidden spaces the city keeps secret. He took her hand. Come on. He led her through a winding path to a clearing overlooking the river. And there, set up on a blanket with an elaborate picnic spread, were Marcus and Eleanor. Surprise! Marcus shouted, bouncing with excitement. Naomi looked between them in confusion. What is this? This, Ethan said, is a family meeting. They settled on the blanket, Marcus immediately diving into the food while Eleanor poured something sparkling into plastic cups. Ethan looked nervous in a way Naomi had never seen him. This man who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals was fidgeting with his cup. So, he began, I asked you all here because I have something important to discuss. Marcus giggled. Eleanor shushed him gently. Naomi, Ethan continued, turning to face her fully. I've spent the past week having some important conversations. I talked to Marcus about what it would mean if I became a more permanent part of your family. I talked to Eleanor about whether she'd be comfortable with me proposing. And I talked to myself about whether I'm ready for the responsibility and privilege of loving you both for the rest of my life. Naomi's breath caught. Ethan, wait, let me finish. He took her hand. Marcus, do you want to tell your mom what we talked about? Marcus sat up straighter, suddenly serious. Mr. Whitmore asked if it would be okay if he married you, and I said yes. But only if he promises to keep teaching me baseball and never tries to replace my dad. Which I absolutely promise, Ethan said solemnly. Your dad will always be your dad. I'm just hoping to be someone else you can count on. And I told him yes, Marcus continued, because you've been way happier since he's been around. And also, he's pretty good at video games. Naomi laughed through tears that were already forming. Eleanor cleared her throat. And Ethan asked me if I thought he was worthy of my daughter. Which is a ridiculous question because I've been rooting for you two since that first late-night phone call where Naomi wouldn't stop talking about how brilliant her CEO was. Mom! It's true. You were smitten long before San Francisco. Eleanor smiled at Ethan. I told him that any man who shows up to a 7-year-old's baseball game because the boy's mother couldn't be there has already proven his worth. But I appreciate him asking anyway. Ethan squeezed Naomi's hand. So, with their blessing, I have a question for you. He shifted, and for a moment, Naomi thought he might actually kneel right there on the picnic blanket. Instead, he pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a stunning ring, simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the afternoon light. Naomi Carter, I fell in love with you across conference tables and late-night strategy sessions. I fell in love with your brilliance and your fierce dedication to the people you care about. I fell in love with the way you make impossible choices look easy and the way you never apologize for wanting both success and love. His voice roughened with emotion. I want to build a life with you. I want to be there for Marcus's baseball games and Eleanor's doctor appointments and every mundane Saturday errand. I want to wake up next to you every morning instead of counting days until the next visit. Will you marry me? Naomi couldn't speak through the tears streaming down her face. She nodded frantically, finally managing, Yes, absolutely yes. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss while Marcus made exaggerated gagging sounds and Eleanor dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Finally, Marcus exclaimed. Can we eat now? I'm starving. They laughed and ate and celebrated in that hidden park overlooking the river. Marcus peppered them with questions about the wedding, whether he'd have to wear a suit, if there would be cake. Eleanor wanted to know about timelines and guest lists. Ethan just held Naomi's hand and looked at her like she'd hung every star in the darkening sky. Later, after they dropped Marcus and Eleanor home and returned to Ethan's apartment, Naomi studied the ring on her finger in wonder. This is really happening, she said. This is really happening. Ethan pulled her onto the couch beside him. How do you feel? Terrified. Exhilarated. Like I'm standing at the edge of something enormous. Good terrified or bad terrified? Good. Definitely good. She curled into him. When I was 19 and pregnant and watching my scholarship slip away, I thought my life was over. Thought I'd never have the career or the love or any of the things I dreamed about. And now? Now I have everything. A career that challenges me. A son who amazes me every day. A mother who sacrificed everything to help me succeed. And you. Naomi tilted her face up to his. You, who somehow sees all my sharp edges and complicated parts and wants them anyway. Your sharp edges and complicated parts are my favorite things about you. Ethan kissed her softly. Well, those and your complete inability to share blankets. I knew you were going to bring that up eventually. They made love that night with the tenderness of people who'd weathered storms and chosen each other anyway. Afterward, Naomi lay in Ethan's arms thinking about the impossible path that had led her here, from a crowded hotel room in San Francisco to this moment of perfect clarity. Can I ask you something? She said into the darkness. Anything. Do you ever think about that night, the hotel in San Francisco? All the time. Why? Because I spent so long thinking it was a disaster, this terrible complication that could ruin everything I'd worked for. Naomi traced patterns on his chest. But it wasn't. It was just the moment we both stopped pretending. Best hotel booking error in history. Definitely. She smiled against his skin. Though we should probably send a thank you note to that night clerk. I'll add it to my to-do list. Right after, plan wedding. and officially become part of Naomi's family. The wedding planning happened in fits and starts around their busy schedules. Naomi wanted simple and meaningful, not extravagant. They chose a small venue in the botanical garden, invited close friends and colleagues, and let Marcus help design the cake specifications with the seriousness he brought to all important decisions. It has to have chocolate and vanilla layers, he insisted during a tasting session, because some people like different things and everyone should be happy. Wise philosophy, the baker said, clearly charmed. Also baseball on top instead of boring flowers. Ethan and Naomi exchanged glances. Maybe we compromise, Naomi suggested gently. Flowers on the cake, baseball on the groom's cake? Marcus considered this gravely. That's acceptable. The months leading to the wedding brought their own challenges. Blending households meant negotiations about space and routines. Marcus had strong opinions about furniture placement. Eleanor needed convincing that moving in with them wouldn't be imposing, even though they all wanted her close by. Ethan had to learn that breakfast at the Carter household was controlled chaos, not the quiet coffee and newspaper routine he'd maintained for years. But they figured it out. They always figured it out. At work, Naomi's division hit record revenue. The San Francisco office she'd built was thriving under autonomous leadership, exactly as she'd designed it. She was invited to speak at industry conferences, interviewed for business publications, recognized as a rising star in digital strategy. And through it all, Ethan was there, not as the CEO who'd promoted her, but as her partner who celebrated every victory and weathered every setback. 3 weeks before the wedding, they sat with Marcus for another important conversation. After your mom and I get married, Ethan began carefully, we're going to be a family. That means you can call me whatever feels comfortable. Ethan, Mr. Whitmore, or if you want, something else. Marcus had clearly been thinking about this. My friend Tommy calls his stepdad by his first name, but Sarah from my class calls hers Dad. Both are perfectly fine, Naomi assured him. I think, Marcus paused, working through it. I think I want to try calling you Ethan Dad, like both together. Because you're Ethan, but you're also going to be like a dad to me, right? Ethan's eyes went suspiciously bright. Ethan Dad works perfectly. I'm honored. Cool, can I go play now? After Marcus left, Ethan pulled Naomi close and just held her. That kid, he said roughly. He's incredible. He learned from watching you be patient with him. You never forced anything. Because he's not a business deal to negotiate. He's a person who deserves respect and time. Naomi kissed him. This is why I'm marrying you. I thought it was my devastating good looks and extensive wine collection. Those too, but mostly the respect thing. The wedding day arrived with perfect September weather, warm but not hot, clear skies, the kind of afternoon that felt like a gift. Naomi stood in the bridal suite at the botanical garden, Eleanor adjusting her dress while Marcus fidgeted in his suit. You look beautiful, baby, Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it. You've earned every bit of happiness coming your way. A knock at the door revealed James, serving as her impromptu wedding coordinator. It's time, he said with a grin. Ethan's out there looking like he might pass out from nerves. Good to know I'm not the only one terrified. You're not terrified. You're ready. And she was. Walking down the aisle on Eleanor's arm with Marcus beside her, Naomi felt nothing but certainty. Ethan stood at the altar looking at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Their team from work filled the seats alongside her college friends and the small family she'd built through sheer determination. The ceremony was simple. They'd written their own vows, which meant Ethan promised to always respect your career ambitions, teach Marcus everything I know about baseball, and never complain when you steal the blankets. Naomi promised to challenge you to be your best self, include you in every major decision, and remember that partnership means both of us get to be extraordinary. When the officiant pronounced them married, Marcus cheered louder than anyone. The reception was joyful chaos. Sarah Chen gave a speech about meeting them as client and consultant and watching them become partners in every sense. James told embarrassing stories about Naomi's early days at the company. Eleanor cried through her entire toast about watching her daughter build something beautiful from impossible circumstances. But the moment that mattered most came during the parent dance. Naomi danced with Marcus, who stood on her feet like he had when he was 4, while Ethan danced with Eleanor. Halfway through the song, they switched, Ethan taking Marcus's hand while Eleanor pulled Naomi close. "Your father would be proud," Eleanor whispered. "Not that he deserves any credit, but the woman you've become, that's all you, baby. That's you. Everything good in me came from watching you refuse to give up." Then we both did good, didn't we? We did extraordinary. Later, when the formalities were done and the dancing had dissolved into happy chaos, Ethan pulled Naomi outside to the garden path. Fairy lights twinkled overhead and music drifted from the reception. "Hello, Mrs. Whitmore," he said. "I'm keeping Carter professionally. We discussed this." "Hello, Mrs. Whitmore, who is actually Ms. Carter at work, but definitely my wife everywhere else." Much better. He kissed her under the lights, and Naomi thought about the journey that had brought them here. Every impossible choice, every moment of doubt, every time she'd almost given up or played it safe or settled for less than everything. "Thank you," she said against his lips. "For what?" "For seeing me. For waiting. For showing up to baseball games and being patient with my chaos and loving me even when I was terrified to love you back. You made it pretty easy. Turns out falling in love with brilliant, complicated women who challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself is my specialty. Lucky me. Lucky us." They returned to the reception to find Marcus teaching a group of adults the proper way to do a baseball slide across the dance floor. Eleanor was deep in conversation with Sarah Chen about something that had them both laughing. James was attempting to DJ with questionable music choices. This was her family now, the one she'd built from fragments and determination, the one she'd almost been too scared to claim. Ethan took her hand and led her back to the dance floor. They swayed together while around them their chosen family celebrated, and Naomi felt the weight of impossible choices finally lift. She'd worried for so long that success and love were competing forces, that choosing one meant sacrificing the other. But standing here in Ethan's arms, surrounded by everyone who mattered, she understood the truth. The real choice hadn't been between ambition and love. It had been between fear and courage, between protecting herself from vulnerability and risking everything for connection, between the safe path and the extraordinary one. She'd chosen courage, chosen risk, chosen the extraordinary, and the extraordinary had chosen her back. Months later, Naomi sat in her office reviewing quarterly numbers when Ethan appeared in her doorway. Technically, they still maintained separate professional spheres. She ran her division autonomously. He oversaw the company broadly. But they'd learned to navigate the overlap with grace. "Got a minute?" he asked. "For my favorite CEO? Always." He closed the door and settled into the chair across from her desk. The professional position, not the casual one. This was business. "The board wants to talk about succession planning," he said. Naomi set down her pen. "You're not going anywhere, are you?" "Not immediately, but I'm 36. Eventually, I'll want to step back, maybe move into a chairman role. They want to start identifying potential successors." "Makes sense. What does that have to do with me?" Ethan's expression was carefully neutral. "Your name came up, multiple times, as someone with the strategic vision and leadership capability to eventually run the entire company." Naomi's breath caught. "Ethan, I can't. We're married. That's an impossible conflict of interest." "Actually, the board's lawyers disagree. As long as we maintain separate divisions until transition, there's precedent for family members serving in executive roles." He leaned forward. "I'm not saying this happens tomorrow, but in 5 years, maybe 7. When I'm ready to step back and you've proven the digital division can scale globally, you could be CEO, Naomi." "That's..." She couldn't finish the sentence. CEO of Caldwell and Rowe. The company she'd joined as a junior strategist, terrified she'd fail. "You don't have to decide anything now. I just wanted you to know the board sees what I see. That you're not just brilliant at digital strategy, you're a leader who could take this entire company into the future." After he left, Naomi sat in stunned silence. CEO. The word felt too big, too impossible, too everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Don't forget my game tonight. Love you, Mom." She smiled and texted back. "Wouldn't miss it for anything." That evening, she sat in the bleachers with Ethan beside her, watching Marcus pitch. He'd grown 3 inches in the past year, all gangly limbs and determination. When he struck out the final batter to win the game, he searched the crowd until he found her and Ethan, his grin splitting his face. "Did you see that?" he shouted, running over. "We saw everything," Naomi said, pulling him into a hug despite his protests about being too old for public affection. "You were amazing. Ethan, Dad, did you see the curveball? Just like you taught me." "Perfect form," Ethan confirmed. "I'm proud of you, buddy." Driving home that night, Marcus in the back seat narrating his entire game play-by-play, Ethan's hand found Naomi's. "This," he said quietly, "this is everything." And it was. Not just the big moments, the promotions and proposals and wedding days, but the ordinary ones too. Baseball games and grocery shopping and Saturday morning laundry. The complicated, messy, beautiful reality of building a life together. Naomi thought about the young woman she'd been at 19, terrified and pregnant, convinced her dreams were over. If she could go back and tell that girl what was coming, the career, the love, the impossible becoming possible, she wasn't sure past Naomi would believe it. But she'd gotten here anyway. One impossible choice at a time, one moment of courage after another. One decision to reach for more instead of settling for less. The question about being CEO could wait. Right now, she had everything that mattered. A son who was thriving, a husband who saw her completely, a career that fulfilled her, a family built on love and choice and determination. Whatever came next, they'd figure it out together. Because that's what families did. That's what love meant. Not the absence of impossible choices, but the presence of people who helped you navigate them. And Naomi Carter Whitmore, Senior Director of Digital Strategy, wife, mother, daughter, she'd learned to navigate impossibility better than most. After all, she'd started with one bed in a crowded city and built an entire life from that single moment of unexpected connection. Some risks she'd discovered were worth taking. All the best ones were.